The music and the timer are two separate things, and whenever they can end at the same time, that's a really cool thing. So we're 1 second off on that one, and that was pretty incredible. So thank you all for being here. My name is, I got a button for that. My name is Anthony Barogos. I'm the Chief Gearhead here at StreamTek, welcoming you all from around the world to another live show. Again, yes, this is a live show if you're watching this live on a Wednesday or Thursday, depending upon where you are, because I have people in Australia watching this. So it's 2 a.m. in Australia on Thursday, and I'm doing this on Wednesday. So yeah, that's the way time works around the world. So thank you all for being here. I appreciate you all tuning in live. But because this is live, this is where you get to ask questions. You know, normally you watch a video on YouTube or LinkedIn or Facebook or Twitch. You watch a video and it's already happened. This is live. I'm here. You're here. You have the ability to ask questions. So I'm going to start with a few questions. First of all, I'd love to know where everyone is watching from. A lot of people have already chimed in. If you haven't already, let me know where you're watching from. Lots of people tuning in from around the world. That's the magic of doing live streaming. Secondly, what streaming questions do you have? It's not limited to the topic of today's show. You can throw in any sort of question you have, and there's a couple good questions already in the comments that I can see, because I have the comments here in front of me, so I can see people commenting and I can call them up onto the screen. And lastly, because today is a YoloBox themed show, are you already a YoloBox user? YoloBox has been around since 17, 18, so 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, that's, 7 years. 7 years is a pretty long time in technology talk. And YOLO has developed a pretty good operating system, a pretty good workflow, and they've evolved their products through the years. And today we will be talking about the YoloBox Mini. Yes, this powerhouse is just what everyone is talking about today. The YoloBox Mini with the 1 HD input is just groundbreaking in its power. No, I'm kidding. Today we will be talking about the Extreme, and I'm not going to pick it up because it's got stuff like, well, I'll pick it up. It's right here. Somebody asked what I'm using. I'm not using the Extreme to produce the show because I have the Extreme in the show, and I can't be showing you all the different menus and everything screens of the Extreme if the Extreme is doing the show. The Extreme is the obvious evolution of the Ultra. The Ultra has 4 HDMI inputs right there. Is that right? Is it up? Yeah, it is. 4 HDMI inputs and 1 HDMI output, a couple big fat USBs and Ethernet. So this is the Ultra and a handy PK1 Pro. You could say it's a desktop cage. Desktop cage. I just made something up. And they were kind enough to make this in my StreamTek colors. So it's purple and yellow. And the thing I like about this is it's a cage for carrying the device, and then it's also a desktop stand for using it. So that's one of the things I really like about it, and it's got shoes and everything. And they're not paying me to say that, but they provided the cage for me for free. So quid pro quo, you could say. Just so you have full disclosure what all is going on there. Let us see who is watching today's show. Mr. Chase Edwards says, what's up, Anthony? How are you? I am doing great. I had a couple weeks off in Japan. I am back and looking forward to having this conversation. And Peter Immerman says, good morning from Chicago. Let's go around the world. Puck Drop Live says, good afternoon from the UK. North Beach TV in Ocean Shores, Washington chimes in. William Lowndes says hello from Long Island, New York. Bob Media is watching from Kenya. So we've got Africa in the house today. I love it when we can get like somebody from every continent. And then Donnie's Studio One is saying good day from St. Vincent in the East Caribbean, or Caribbean, depending upon how you like to say it. And then going all the way around the world, Bowles Promo is watching at 2 a.m. in Queensland, Australia. So thank you very much. I won't say good day because it's the middle of the night. Bowles Promo is asking, what are you using to stream? We'll get back to the questions in a second. Let's keep going. Let's keep going around the world. Steve is watching from Wheeling, West Virginia. Good to have you here. Pedro from Madrid, Spain. Let's see, who else is here? Alan Winston is in Albuquerque, New Mexico. So we put a big link in there. Randy Robinson says Austin, Texas. Crossworks says hi from Alabama. Who else is in here? Wolfgang is in here from Germany. Thank you very much for chiming in. And Bert Gronheim is in Spooner, Wisconsin. And what brings us here is the extreme is indeed extreme. I love it. Okay, let's come back up here and let me take that out. And the thing is, once you scroll away from it, you can't easily take it out. So as I mentioned today, today we're talking about this. It's so big, I have to get out of the way. The YoloBox Extreme. It's so big, it just kept going past the space that was allotted for it. And this little box is not the Extreme. This is the mini. Apologies to all those people tuning in for the YoloBox Extreme, and then I started talking about the YoloBox Mini, the latest, greatest single HD input video mixer from YOLO Live. Let me turn this off, power off. But yeah, hey, you know what? How about a 4K Mini? Wouldn't that be cool? Let's go back and revisit the form factor of the Mini and give it some 4K love. Would you like that? Again, I don't work for YOLO. I have no connection with YOLO at this point. They provided this unit for review, just doing disclosure. I did actually have a live show scheduled about the Extreme before I left for Japan 3 weeks ago, but they still had the NDA in place, so they sent me a note saying, no, not yet. So I canceled that. And then while I was away in Japan is when the NDA expired. Everybody was having their videos released and everything, and that's why you haven't seen my video, because I was on vacation. That's the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. So let's continue on here. I want to go through these questions now, because as always I say that the show is not limited to the topic at hand. You could throw in any sort of microphone, audio, whatever questions you may have. So the first question came in is, what are you using to stream from today? If you haven't seen my shows, I developed a workflow that I've been using for probably the past year. Yeah, because we're in April already. Probably the past year, where I produce my live switch using my little Bluetooth adapter. I do that on a Director Mini because I can use this little Bluetooth adapter, and then it goes, the video output of that goes into Restream, which then goes to YouTube, Facebook on my page, Facebook on the StreamTek channel, Twitch, and it's supposed to go to LinkedIn, but there was an error when I hit the go button. So it's supposed to go to 5 platforms and pull comments from each of those platforms back into this page that I can see. So that's what I use Restream for, is managing. I have a larger screen space than I would on the device to be able to see the comments from all the different platforms and be able to like put each one up and click on it and bring it out. So that's what I'm doing when I say I'm moving, I'm clicking on the screen. I'm doing that in Restream on a monitor in front of me. So I'm using 2 different platforms. And I do that because the YoloBox can multicast. The YoloBox can go to 3 platforms and it will manage comments, but I wanted to go beyond 3. And the Director Mini can do 2 outputs to 2 destinations, but that's only 2. And I wanted more. So that's why I'm using Restream. Continuing down here. AVCan's Go camera, worth the $400 US. I'm not familiar with the AVCan's Go camera, so I can't speak to it. And I'll just be honest, if I don't have firsthand information and have used it, I'm not going to try and baloney you and make up an answer as if I know everything. I don't. I'll just be honest. And so I can't speak to that because I don't have firsthand experience with it. Continuing down here. I'd love to have transparent WebM overlay transitions for replay starts and finishes. Any tips? Transparent WebM video overlay transitions. Wow, so that's like a stinger, I guess. The YOLO has stingers, but I don't think they're transparent. It's a video that plays before and after. And I know the director also does the same thing. So they'll cut to a stinger video clip and then come back out. So given that, it would be nice to have a transparent WebM video overlay transition. I think just cutting to a video clip stinger, I think that's going to be enough for replay start and finish. The added little advantage of having it come in over top of the video to cover the transition between the video, your live, and the replay is not worth the extra added hassle over just using the technology that's already in these devices. The 98% of the people aren't going to be like, oh my God, did you see how it came in just slightly over top of the video and I could still see the video? Nobody's going to care. We care. I get it. I'm right there with you. We want it to be perfect, but the audience doesn't care. They're there for the game. They get a replay. That's cool. They really don't care about the first 5 frames of the transition and how there was a transparent overlay. They don't care. As mentioned, IRE Times Dreamy Riley says, the extreme is indeed extreme. Yes, because when the YOLO came out with their YoloBox, let me go get the mini again. I do actually. When YOLO came out with the original YoloBox, the 2-input little video tablet that I put these little feet on, and you can do this on the Extreme too. This is super cheap, just like a phone kickstand. And I have a video on the YouTube channel about all different types of supports, and these are super cheap, and they stay with it, and they don't take up any extra room, and they have almost no extra weight. So that's a nice advantage to these little things. But they're not a cage to carry it. When YOLO came out with this little device, it really did break ground. And it was the first Android tablet, Android or iOS, because you could produce, using a tablet, many different tablets. There's numerous iOS devices, and I've written about them in Streaming Media Magazine, which is another place where I write. That is right over here. Let's do side by side, PC. I write for Streaming Media Magazine, and I've written about the numerous, that's my cursor, it's on the wrong screen, different iOS-based live streaming applications. Switcher Studio, Teradek had Live to Air, which then became AirMix, which is now free. And I have a group on Facebook for AirMix, because it's now a free app that's not supported, but we can support each other. So if you are interested in trying out an iOS app for live streaming, it does not do NDI, but you can connect various devices to Teradek AirMix, namely iOS and Android phones as cameras on the local area network. You can go there, and then also Cinemaker. Panasonic came out with one called Live Control, and then there's Top Director, Switcher Studio, although they tried to change the name to Switcher, which makes no sense to me. Like, don't take off the studio part of it, because that's actually the point. Just a little rant there. Don't, Switcher. It's like Apple calling their mail program Mail. Then you have a problem. When you have a problem, you say, yeah, the mail in Mail is not mailing. It just keep a longer title or a very different title. None of these tablets could get just physical hardwire plug in your camera. They always had to be over a wireless network or through your wired network. They had to be across the network. And that was a problem. And so YOLO came out with the first Android tablet with physical hardware inputs. And that changed the game. YOLO was the first all-in-one production studio in an Android tablet. This is the groundbreaker right here, this device. And since then, from the original one, they've come out with the Pro, the Mini, the Ultra, and now the Extreme. Wait, I gotta go back to here. The Extreme. And I'm launching Instagram. I always seem to forget Instagram too. So now Instagram is up. So the Extreme does this to the extreme in that there are 8 inputs here. 8. Now people are also going to say, well, the Extreme is 4K. Well, actually, the Ultra is 4K too. So it's actually not the first tablet that does 4K. The Ultra has that honor. They've just increased the hardwire camera count to 8, which is extreme. It's taking it to the extreme. And that and there's 2 hardwire outputs too. 2 full-size HDMI outputs. And when you want to have a multi-view and your program in front of you, right there, baby, you've got it. And this hardware solution alone is going to really satisfy a lot of people. And the fact that it's being done on an Android tablet creates certain compromises. And a lot of people are surprised because when you start talking 8 inputs, 2 outputs, 4K, NDI, ISO recording, you're thinking, oh my God, this is going to do everything. But you need to remember, it's still an Android tablet. It's still limited to the CPU and the GPU that's soldered on that tiny little tablet infrastructure. And thankfully, YOLO did a very good job that when you start connecting things, it lets you know that you can do this much of this and this much of that. There's a hard cap to what the processor can handle. It can only handle so many frames per second. And if you're dealing with HD, which is like, you're watching me, if this was a 4K frame, this is 1, 2, 3, 4 HDs. So that processor is able to handle so much bits that if you're dealing with HD, now you can ISO more, you can now record more, you can now deal with more videos. Whereas if you're dealing with 4K inputs, for those people who want to do it, you can ISO less. You do less. You're doing more video, but you can do less 4K ISO recording per se, because there's only so much bandwidth in an Android tablet. This is not a desktop machine where you can sit there and say, well, I'm just going to pull out the video card and put a new video card in so I can do more. I'm going to replace the i5 with an i7 or an i9, and I'm going to be able to do more NDI. It doesn't work like that. It is as built. You can't increase the RAM, you can't increase the GPU, you can't replace the CPU, you can't even change the battery. These are the way they are built, and that's it. So you have to look at the specifications. Just go by what it says on the box and on the page when they introduce it, and don't think, well, down the road they said they might be able to do that. What can it do now? Does it do what you want it to do now? That's what you base your purchase on. Don't base your purchase on what somebody said it might be able to do in 6 months. Just the same thing with a computer. You might be able to do something, you might not. Or so-and-so says, oh, the new release of this video game, we're going to have this pack down the road. Yeah, don't base your purchase based on that, because very often that is either delayed or doesn't happen. But that's just, my personal experience with the thing. What is your favorite new feature on the Extreme? I'd have to say 8 inputs. Just flat out 8 inputs. And I will be honest, I do every single stream I've done for clients and for broadcast has been HD. 1080p, 1080p 60, but it'll still be HD because almost nobody is watching from a rear projector in a theater, and they can really benefit from the 4K. So me trying to stream 4K is not going to deliver, is going to hamper my production and not deliver as much value as me delivering in HD, having more cameras, more replays, more frames per second. That way I'm delivering more value and more content to the viewer than I would be if I was trying to do everything, making it harder for me by doing it in 4K. So 8 inputs, because right now my Director Mini has 2 HDMI inputs. And when I do this picture-in-picture, that image over there comes courtesy of another switcher. So I have to use 2 different switchers to be able to do this picture-in-picture. Now, it lets me switch between that and my overhead. See, this is my overhead camera, and this is my side camera. And that's really cool because I can switch just what's in that box. And then with this switcher, I can switch between my main camera and my side-by-side camera. So it makes it simpler like that. But with the YOLO, I can have all the inputs going into an 8 input switcher and then just use my YOLO deck to switch between all of my pips. All of my pips would, picture-in-pictures would just be different scenes. A scene with me and my overhead, a scene with me and the side-by-side camera, a scene with me and computer capture. That's how that would work, as opposed to one side-by-side and then using a second switcher to switch all what's in there. So it would kind of simplify what I'm doing on the table here by allowing me to put it all in one device. That's with the 8 inputs. And again, it's not just 8. When I took, I think I did it with the Pro, or I think I did it with the Ultra. What did I do with the Pro? At this point, I don't even remember. I did 15 inputs into a YoloBox. And yes, I know the Ultra has 8, so it adds 4 more hardwire. So you can 15, 16, 18, that'd be 19 inputs into an Ultra, maybe even more. But the way I did that was I had my HDMI connections, I had HDMI into USB connections, and then I had 3 NDI connections, and then you can have remote callers. Remember, that's 4 more or 5 more remote callers. You can have a lot of inputs into your YoloBox. And then you've got a live input coming from another live stream on your account. So there's a lot going on that you can bring into your YoloBox at one time, not just the physical inputs. But having 8 physical inputs is a great feature just because I deal with so much stuff on the table. And maybe with one of these cameras I can kind of illustrate that, because I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cameras in front of me. And, counting what is off, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 screens. So there's a lot going on to manage, and having one place to manage it can simplify it, as long as you can go through and put everything on a control surface for how you like to work. Because how you like to work is not how I like to work, how she likes to work, how they like to work. So being able to customize it makes it very efficient. All right, sorry, getting a little direct there. Should do a 4K live show with the Extreme. I know Frank is doing one soon. And that's great, but it's still gonna be, it's a 4K version of me talking. I don't think you need to see me in any higher resolution. You might be turned off. Honestly, if I'm talking to you and I'm conveying information and I'm showing you the inputs, the 4K, unless you have the ability to blow it up really big on a 50-inch screen in front of you and get really close, 4K is really not going to give you anything more than HD is going to give you. I love director mode config in 5 NDI. Yes, they increased the NDI to 5 on the new device, and that also increases the total head count that you can get into the device. The CPU usage monitor is very useful. Actually, thank you for mentioning that. That is also something that people have asked for years, because we will hit against the ceiling of what the YoloBox can do, but not know it. And it's like, well, why is it dropping frames? Well, because like any computing device, and this is not just restricted to YoloBox. I've done it on my desktop PC with vMix, and I have the CPU monitor usage open, and then Windows does stuff at random times. Windows does stuff, and I'm chugging along at 80%, and everything's great. The stream is great. The recording is great. We're just having a ball. 1080p 60, yay! And then all of a sudden, nothing changes, but Windows decides to do something in the background. I don't know, check for viruses or hard drive scan or something like that. And the CPU usage goes wham to 100%, and it just sits there. And next thing you know, I can see vMix gives you live stats, and it says the delay on frame processing starts getting longer and longer. I start dropping frames, because that's what vMix does, is it'll just skip over things to keep up with real time. And now instead of delivering 60, I'm delivering 50. I'm delivering 40 frames a second, and it's not as smooth. And you can see a weird cadence going on compared to the super smooth 60. And then Windows gets done doing whatever it's doing, it drops down to 80, and all of a sudden my video becomes super smooth again. When you hit the upper limit of anything, performance suffers. So having the CPU usage monitor on the screen lets you know, oh, I'm pushing this pretty darn hard. It's getting really hot, and I'm at 80 to 90% CPU. I may start to see certain issues happen because I'm using the system too hard. It's like a tachometer in a car. Everything's great for 4, 5, 6, 7,000 RPM, but then you get to 8 and 9, it starts to struggle. So, it's not a limited to YoloBox or Android tablets. It's anything. You hit that upper limit and it starts to struggle. That indeed is a good feature. Yes. The McGee Academy of Arts and Sciences says good morning from Pico Riviera, California. Good morning to you as well. Have you done a comparison between the OBSBot Tail 2 and the BirdDog X4 Ultra? I think the X4 Ultra costs at least double what the Tail 2 does. I want to see them side by side when they're fully zoomed in. Well, the X4 Ultra, I believe, is also a 20x optical lens, and the Tail 2 is a 5x optical lens. So you're really comparing like a Toyota Prius versus a Tesla. You're comparing like a basic, simple 5x camera for under $1,000 to a much more expensive 20x optical 4K camera that's, I think, around $2,000, so double the cost. I don't really know offhand, but I can look that up. Let us go to BH. There it is. So let's go to the PC so you can see it. BH photo video. And we were curious what the BirdDog, I'm typing. X4 Ultra costs. $2,200. So it is considerably more than 2 times the cost. I wouldn't compare those two cameras. I wouldn't even bother to compare those two cameras, because I compared the OBSBot Tail 2. I did a show already on the OBSBot Tail 2 versus the OBSBot Tail Air. How do they compare? Because although they're not the same cost, still $600, not $1,000, but they're both OBSBot, they're both tail cameras. One has the optical zoom, one doesn't, but they're going to kind of be used by the same people, as opposed to trying to get an BirdDog X4 Ultra at $2,200 paired with a $1,000 or a $999 Tail 2. So I have not, and probably won't. Check out YoloLive's PTZ camera. It looks promising too. Yes, they have actually this side view that I have here. This view is actually YoloLive's previous PTZ camera called the Verticam. That comes courtesy of their Verticam. So this is HD only, and it comes with a remote, which is over here. So I can zoom in. I can zoom out. I have not figured out how to tell the YoloBox how to talk to it, but it comes with a remote and it gives me a side shot. So they're not new to PTZ cameras. Actually, they've had a PTZ camera before, but I think this is going to be a revolution in that in terms of maybe having NDI, better control. Although I think the control in this is pretty good. Another response comes, AVCans Go is a great camera to use, excellent quality. Thank you for chiming in on that. Matt W. Ruff says, hello from Music City, USA and Nashville, Tennessee. And it's correct, transparent is replace the black on the extreme. Again, I don't think it's going to make much of a difference to your viewers. Hello from Greece. Hello to you, Andres. Good to see you here. YOLO has the NDI alpha channel overlay. So yes, if you're doing it via NDI, the NDI has the ability to handle an alpha channel. Excuse me. So you can leverage that. But if you're creating your graphics on a website and bringing them in via that's you've got a little bit of a disconnect between your source and where you're doing it. Is the Extreme worth the upgrade from the Ultra if using a 3 or 4 cam max setup? Couple factors missing from that question are you doing 4K? Are you also doing ISOs and replays and all this other thing? If you're doing all these other factors and you want all this other capability, yes. The Extreme has the extra processing power that will let you have more ISOs, that will let you have, do the extra replays and records and things like that. If you're doing 3 or 4 HD cameras, and I guess if you're just switching between them and streaming, no. If you're doing a little bit of replay, probably not. If you're doing ISO and replay and yes. So, man, it just stuck in my throat today. Sorry. If it depends on what you're doing. It's not so much 3 or 4, but what you're doing with the 3 or 4 cameras and what resolution are those 3 or 4 cameras in. If you are pushing the upper boundary of what you're doing on the Ultra, and the Ultra is showing signs that it's not able to handle all the records and ISOs and replays and everything, you're having issues, then yes, the Extreme will be worth the upgrade. If you are in the middle of the road and you're not really taxing the Ultra, then there's no reason to get the Extreme. How does the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 processor enhance the device's performance, particularly for 4K streaming and ISO recording? It raises the limit. It's as simple as that. It is a more powerful processor, able to handle more frames and do more things. The Adventures of Gen X says, what will the next one be called? The Super Duper Extremely Extreme? I don't know. I think 8 inputs is about as far as you need to go on. I really don't see the need to go further. What you can do, though, you could just say Extreme V2 and have double Snapdragons. You know what I mean? Making it so that you could ISO all 8 channels at 4K, So at this point, we've maxed out, I feel. And again, I don't work for YOLO. I'm not part of the engineering or product design team. I feel at 8 physical inputs, you've maxed out what you should need on an Android tablet in terms of physical inputs. The only thing you really need to focus on at that point is performance. And that's going to naturally increase as chip processors get better and better and better, as they always do. So in 2 years, what the Extreme does today is going to be old hat. And a single chip is going to be able to do even more. Or maybe they double up chips, like the YOLO, like the Apple, Max or Pro has, multiple processors shoved together and computing as one. Hey, if they can do that in a tablet, go for it. I would need to have a PC running to use the overlay. Well, how are you building the graphics in the web page that you're bringing into the YoloBox now? You're probably using another device to do that, to do those graphics. You're not doing them on the tablet that you're using the graphics on. So yes, you would need to have a second device. The 2 HDMI out is very nice. I agree. Price point, customer wise, what do you think are the different YoloBox models designed for? I think the Pro and other models are designed for people getting into it. They have like 3 inputs to switch. They want to do things, and the YoloBox or the YOLO Live interface is very nice. I handily admit that every single time. It's very polished. It's very well thought out. Makes it super easy to put things together. YOLO's got that in spades. And then it's like, okay, I've got a couple inputs. I need one more. I need a little bit more power. Then you can go to the Ultra. Oh, I need 8 cameras because I'm doing this conference. Okay, the Ultra is for you, They kind of self-define based on what your needs are. It's sort of like saying, what's the best camera? It's really what's the best camera for what you want to do today. Didn't have a good launch intro to YoloBox with the Ultra. It just wasn't ready for release. I left a little scared results. Do you now consider the Ultra as stable and reliable? Straight talk. You're asking for some straight talk, aren't you? The Ultra is, I say, the Ultra has had more pre-release work done by more people. I was part of the beta. I will admit I was not able to invest the amount of time some of the other beta testers were, and they really hammered the hell out of the Extreme, and they did a fantastic job. So kudos to all of those people on the beta team who really did put it through its paces, and a new update would come out and they would test every single feature and say, this doesn't work now, this doesn't work. They would do all that. I will agree that the launch intro for the Ultra came out before it was really ready. And a lot of people who jumped on it jumped on a boat that was still a little unstable. I feel the Ultra is starting out better, because it's had, YOLO learned from that, and YOLO invited more people in to just really help them really hammer it and make sure that it was more ready by the time they shipped it. That said, they are still releasing updates fairly quickly. And I know that the Pro users who were waiting for an update had to wait like almost a year when the Ultra came out, because the engineering team only works so many hours. They go home, they have families and stuff. All their efforts were devoted to getting the Ultra up to speed. Now that engineering team is more focused on the Extreme, but the Pro users are still waiting for those updates, and some things have trickled down. Like now the Pro was given NDI, one channel of NDI, that it didn't have until the Ultra, halfway through the Ultra development last year. Then it was like, hey, we can actually start filtering some of this stuff down to the Pro. And I think more people are waiting for more stuff to filter down. Do I feel the Ultra, do I consider the Ultra as stable and reliable? I would say yes, the Ultra is as stable and reliable as the Extreme. I guess that's supposed to be the Extreme. Do I consider the Extreme as stable and reliable as the Ultra? I think it's more stable and reliable than the Ultra was when it was first released. The Ultra was released a little too early. I think we can all agree on that. And YOLO spent a whole lot of time really trying to get it, you know, to where it is today. I think the Extreme is coming out further. You know, we're not at that stage with the Extreme. The Extreme is a little bit more polished now that it's coming out. Is it done? I don't think it's done. I think there's still things to iron out. I think there's still things to facilitate. I think the Ultra still needs a bit more facilitation. And the Pro and the Mini and the other devices in the InStream are still waiting for updates too. Like me personally, I use the InStream for streaming to Instagram. And every single time I do a show, I have to rebuild every single input and rotate and change the background and do my picture-in-picture. I have to build everything from scratch every single time. Whereas every other device, you can have a saved show. So that when I come back to something, I launch the show and here's all my pictures in pictures, here's all my graphics, here's all my thing, you know, here's how I laid out my windows. And then I say, okay, here's my input, here's my overlay, go. Still waiting for that for the InStream, and it's been years. So I think hopefully maybe with the Extreme, they're done trying to develop new hardware, although now there's cameras, that the engineers can go back and refine and update those tools that a lot of people are relying on and create a lot of really happy customers, happier customers, now that those tools are even more functional. Because, hey, would you like to use the YOLO deck with the Pro? I would. But that feature is not available yet. We're waiting for it. Back in 19, there it is. Back in 19, despite the CPU limitations, the YoloBox OG was still the best innovations of videography. It was. It broke ground. There was no all-in-one solution like that. You know, you could have a computer, but you needed an audio input device, a video input device, a video output device, and all these different things. And if you were tablet-based, there was nothing. Love my Ultra. I have clients that use the vertical streaming. Will they add vertical streaming at some point to the Extreme? Very good question. And I think Frank has spoken to this in the group, that the Extreme is really meant as a horizontal production device. The Ultra can rotate, the Extreme cannot, because those people who are using 8 inputs are probably not the people who need 8 or 15 inputs or 20 inputs into Instagram. Instagram is usually just one, maybe a second or third view, and the Ultra gives you 5, 7, you know, with all NDI inputs and stuff. So by and large, Frank indicates this is going to be it. Live streaming, monitor mode. And that is what the Extreme is going to be. It is a horizontal streaming platform, and they're not going to try to rejigger everything in here for vertical production like they did with the Ultra. And it's also allows the engineering team to focus on it hones in what you're doing, as opposed to trying to like change the audio mixer for this and that, for horizontal and vertical. Oh, let's change the picture in pictures. Oh, for horizontal and vertical. It makes it easier for them to create fixes and updates when the number of things that it does has been brought down a little bit, and it's a more focused product. Mike Lee says, love my Pro, Ultra, and Extreme. I agree. 4K streaming is just overkill. I don't get why it would have wide requirement either. I think there is a place for it. I actually think there is a place for it. Like if you're doing Taylor Swift, the Eras Tour, and people are going to be buying $30 tickets or $20 tickets for a live stream, I'm going to have that on my big screen in the living room, and I want to see that in 4K. But then again, you're going to have a broadcast production truck outside. It's that level of production. So we're not trying to do that on a tablet. So there are different use cases for different things. Do you really consider the Ultra as stable now, even for a 4-camera setup? I would say the Ultra is pretty stable for a 4-camera setup. Mike says 4K is the future. People are watching more and more content in 4K nowadays. They are, but if you're watching on your phone, very likely the cellular carrier or YouTube or whatever has actually downsampled what you're getting. So you're not watching it 4K on your phone or your iPad or your Android tablet or your Surface tablet or your laptop. You know, it doesn't default to 4K automatically. It defaults to 1080. I know on here it does 1080 720, even 480 sometimes on my phone. And I often don't notice it unless somebody's got like a chart up, and then I have to increase the resolution in the menu. So 4K may be the future, but also the way people watch and take in content has vastly shifted to there's more than 60 to 70% of viewing is on mobile devices anymore. The amount of people sitting at home watching TV, see if I can do this, is only over here, and it's shrinking. So 4K is the future for this market, and this market is shrinking. And not everybody who's watching at home on TV, you know, if you're over 60 or whatever, which is the baby boom bubble is moving its way along, they're not even able to see 4K. 4K streaming would not have the infrastructure. So there's a discussion going on on YouTube. You can discuss it. I'm going to skip over that a little bit. The whole reason I went with the Ultra over the other options is the easy option to bring in a remote guest. The Ultra, yes, does have the mix minus audio. That requires extra CPU processing that the Pro does not have. And being able to have that better audio mixer with the ability to turn off your own audio so you don't hear yourself with the echo, which is why I'm not listening to myself right now in the recorder, is because it has an echo. Everything coming into these devices has to be resynced, so the audio has to be delayed, and then you hear yourself with the echo. Whereas on the Ultra and the Extreme, you have the ability, and the Director series, you also have the ability to turn off your audio input so that you don't hear it in your headphones. So that's really good. Mike Lee says, I know the Ultra had some bugs affecting users last September, actually when it came out earlier in the year, but it's otherwise very stable with 4 more inputs when used correctly. But not everybody knows what correctly is. Do you think they will pass down that update to previous models? Which update? So if you're a part of the live show, be sure to put because I get to your comments after, you're 20 seconds behind me, and then I'm probably 2 minutes to getting to your comment. So be sure to put more into the comment. The Ultra has the CPU usage monitor too when you swipe down the control center window. Yes, and knowing where you are in terms of what the computer is doing is critical. I wish that feature would come to the Pro and the other models as well. Maybe that's the question you were asking. There it is. Do you think they will pass the CPU usage to previous models? I have no idea, but I really hope so, because that would make it so if you're using the Pro and you're having an issue, now you would know why. As opposed to just saying, oh, the Pro can't do what I want to do. Well, why? Are you demanding too much of the device and now it's giving you stuttery video? Or is it one of your inputs is not, the right form of NDI, and you're bringing in NDI and it's just having trouble with that? Knowing where the model is in terms of capacity and usage is critical in understanding the issues you might be having. Oh, look at that. I'm getting junk posts. Cool. On Twitch. No less. Ray jumps in from Muncie, Indiana. Thank you very much. The CPU in the Pro is on the weak side. That's why I went with the Ultra. It's on the weak side because I think it's 5 years old now. So it's like getting a 5-year-old phone. Processors update every single year, maybe even a couple times a year. And so, yeah, it's on the weak side compared when it came out. When the Pro came out, compared to what the regular model could do, the Pro was amazing. And then on the Pro, they continued to just update and innovate and give you more and give you more. You know, remote guests was not possible when the Pro came out. Remote guests came out a year later. And I was like, wait, now I can bring in remote callers? And all these extra features came out. Like what we take for granted today wasn't there originally. So the CPU in the Pro is now being tasked to do far more than it was when the Pro came out. And it's on the weak side compared to the Ultra, but it's still quite a powerful machine for that device. Let's see. NDI question. I'm connected to my iPhones using Switcher. Do they do their version of NDI? Switcher does not do NDI, as far as I know. Switcher Studio has never embraced NDI because they have their own little codec that they use that has bidirectional capability to control the iPhone's capability. It's not NDI. And to support an outside standard at the same time as their own would be trying to support two different things. It's for the sake of reliability and bulletproofness, they're going to stick with their system. They're not going to try to also add a third-party system to it. It would be really handy, but I really don't think Switcher would do that. YoloBox through Wi-Fi, is that a more reliable signal? Wi-Fi is never as reliable as wired networking, and wired networking is not as reliable as a physical HDMI cable. It's a bit confusing. How many NDI inputs can the Xtreme connect? Well, let's jump in. That is a good segue to taking a look at this device. Let's look, I believe this is the monitor. We'll go into monitor mode. And I actually had one NDI connected. I don't know if it went to sleep. Let me walk around. Yeah, it went to sleep. All right, so when I hit plus here and I hit NDI, it tells you to NDI FX. And what FX means is full NDI. Full NDI is a about 100 megabit stream. It used to be the lowest latency. It's not anymore. I can tell you that based on actual physical testings from a camera. And 5 NDI HX. It tells you right here, and this is one of the nice things that I appreciate with this latest version is that they're trying to really make it clear that there are limitations. It's not like, oh, it does NDI. I'm going to hook up 15 NDI cameras. No, you're not. I'm going to hook up 10 NDI sources, laptops. No, you're not. You're just not. That's why it's got 8 physical inputs. Now, these NDI inputs are in addition to your physical inputs. But if you're doing full NDI, it's 2. Now, this could be part of the confusion. Look, it says 2 NDI and 5 HX, 5, 6, 7. That's 7. But there's also an OR between there. And then if I have one full NDI, like I have a bird dog camera, P200, how many HX are left? I don't know. I actually don't know. PTZ Optics. I have this camera set up right here. Done. So here's my PTZ Optics camera. The other camera I think fell asleep. It's not on. Although when I tap the button, maybe they were just telling me the battery's full. Let me see if I turn it on. There it goes. Alrighty. Yeah, that camera fell asleep. All right, so this down here is NDI, because as you can see, I don't have any cables connected. Well, I do have Ethernet connected. It's not coming in via Wi-Fi. Oh, and I would be very bad if I didn't mention, it has external antennas. So if you are using a cellular hotspot to stream from, or you're plugging in Ethernet to stream, you can share that connection, and your tablet becomes the hotspot that the other devices connect to wirelessly through the external antennas. And I did a video about that using the OBSBot Talent. And the OBSBot Talent becomes the hotspot to the tail airs, all via wireless. And then it's like, you just get these, I got the Talent and I got this. And those are the only two pieces of hardware that I'm bringing, because this is on cellular and this is connected to the cellular via Wi-Fi. So that you can do the same thing right here, not using any of these physical inputs, but still connecting cameras. And if we go back to the head camera, you can see now that I woke up this camera here, that camera is up, and that camera is up. This is my PTZ optics, which is a PTZ camera. And that one over there is a near stream. Actually, it looks really good. And to control the near stream, I have the app. Let's go to my overhead. I have an app for the near stream, so I can select this camera, image adjustments, and then I gotta wait for it to actually reconnect to the camera. So we'll wait for that. But there's a zoom at the top, so I'm pretty sure I'm not going to be able to control it via here, but we can try. Actually, let's control this one. So PTZ control on the YOLO tablets. I'm trying to be very, not the Extreme, not the Ultra, because they all do, the Pro and the Ultra and the Extreme all do NDI now. NDI can handle PTZ control. So this is zoom control over here, PTZ control, but they do not automatically connect the control to the device, which the Director series does. So you go PTZ control, and then it asks for the IP address, which I happen to know because I have it set up over here. Here is, if you look at my PC, look at that, that's behind. If you look at the PTZ, that is 192, no, not star, dot 168.4.55, and now that is the IP address of the PTZ optics camera. I put that into this setting here. I say go, done, connecting, unable to connect to your PTZ device. How about TCP? Done. Unable to connect to my TCP device, which is, this is the problem I have with NDI on the YOLOs, is that this should not be this difficult. 192.168.4.55. Go, done. It should be part of the NDI connection, but it's saying it's unable to control it. Done. Go, okay, cancel. Whereas if you're on a another NDI device like the Director 1, when you connect to an NDI device, control is just there. It's just part of the protocol. And here you can see I've got my near stream, and I can. Okay, now you're not going to listen to me? Okay. Oh well. Image adjustments. Ugh. So that's not going to work either. Try one more time. Nope, it's not going to zoom. Can I flip it? Nope, that's not going to work either. All right, we're having a better day. So NDI from the PTZ optics is here. Oh, it did flip. Boy, that took a while. 2, 3. There it goes. And let's see how fast this comes around to flipping. So this is NDI from the near stream. Boy, that is taking, I said flip. And that's what I did before, is I just clicked the flip button over here. It's thinking, and then eventually it flipped over here. So it did control it. It's just taking a long time. And this is part of the issue in terms of dealing with devices that require separate control, is that it's delivering the picture here, but it's delivering the picture there, and it's tasking the camera. There it goes. Finally, that's how long the flip took. If I zoom in, you're going to zoom in 10 minutes. It would be nice to be able to have that direct control right here on this device, so that you don't have to task the camera with providing the image and controls to a secondary device. That's really why I wanted to have the PTZ control here, as opposed to over here. Even this one's having a, let's refresh this. And we can come over here to my zoom, zoom in, zoom out, and then, no, it is still 455. All right, so I'm not going to worry about that anymore. Let's continue along the line. And the question was about how many NDI inputs you can have, and I think YOLO kind of indicates right there, when you're adding an NDI input, that right there, it's telling you, this is what I can do. And I even believe if you were to add more and more sources, those are the only two I have on right now. If you were to add more and more sources, that it would indicate like you've used all your sources. It's going to tell you when you, like, look, I found all these sources, but you can't add anymore. I'm at the limit. Also, you need to understand that if you are connected via cellular or 4G LTE and your NDI source is on Wi-Fi or Ethernet, the NDI function may not function correctly because it's using one network source. The one network controller needs to see both the camera and the internet on that same connection. It's also why if you're trying to do bonding, which is then handing your network connections over to a separate subroutine, that the video part can't see multiple cameras on the network because it can't see just that one network. It can't see just Wi-Fi or just Ethernet because that doesn't exist anymore. You have this other piece of software saying, I'm going to use all the different networks and combine them, and then what I share to the device is something else. And it's not a bi-directional thing because of the bonding that's going on. That's just a known limitation. It's not a YOLO limitation, it's a known limitation. So let's go back here. Kept skipping frames every now and then today. Which one? I absolutely need a way to save project settings and setups rather than having to recreate a show from scratch every time. Got to be the #1 request right now for me with the Ultra. You can do that because when you come into a show, yeah, exit monitor mode, done. Even monitor mode kept the 2 cameras that I had set up. But if you go into live streaming, there's all my shows. It keeps all the shows, and all the shows have all the data. As long as you have an SD card with all of your media, all your video clips and graphics and all of that, as long as you have all that other media saved on the SD card, when you go into a show, well, you can't because that show's done, you just come up here and you say, duplicate that show into Extreme Show number 4. And then you come down here and you create. There's Extreme Show number 4, and I go back into it. And it's like, there's my destinations. Oh, I haven't made any shows on here. So that is why, if I was on the Pro, it would show this very differently. I wonder if it works on the Ultra. We'll try that on the Ultra too. Because I have created shows on here or in, done. Let's go back to one of the older ones. 090. Let's see if I duplicate that one. number 2. ABC. Done. Done. Graphics. Interesting. I'm not seeing my graphics on the Ultra. When I'm doing this on the Pro and when I have done it on the Ultra, when I duplicate an old show, it carries everything forward. So I can create a new show all the time. And then technically you can use a streaming show and not record. So that way, if you use a streaming show and don't record, you have the ability to save and duplicate and carry forward these shows and content. And if you make any changes to titles and things like that, all that stuff stays in there and it should carry forward. Let me go and check it on here. Live streaming. And then here you can see, let's go to overhead. This is the Ultra, and you can see that the 2 new shows I created are reflected on here. So the shows carry forward between devices. So these 2 shows that I just created on here are already showed up over here. So I have an SD card in here. I don't. So let me quick stick an SD card in here so that I have media. October 29, 2024. Yeah, these should. Number 2. So there, you can see the graphics carried forward from this live show already. I don't have any inputs connected, but there's the graphics that I carried forward, the audio mixer, my remote guest. So those things and my streaming destinations, you know, I can easily just turn them on. Yes. Now let's do a check, because this, if I come out and come back into live streaming, it should pick that show up right there, and click on here and go to my graphics, and it did not pick up the graphics. Do I have an SD card in here? I do. So it should pick up the graphics, but the Ultra, the Extreme is not picking up the graphics that the Ultra does from previous shows. So you got a good point that the Extreme needs to be part of that ecosystem. Now, I don't know if having 8 inputs creates a different project file that it needs to update them and change things, but that's definitely something that it should be showing me my overlays like the Ultra does when I go into the same show and I go into my overlays. There's the overlays that it carried forward, my countdown timer, my lower third for me, my bottom crawl and everything. So there's my live show overlays right here waiting for me in my StreamTek colors. And when I open the same project file from the cloud with an SD card with the media in there, but those are just titles that are created in YOLO, it did not, there's no titles here in the Extreme. Can you also show us the YOLO deck, PTZ control, and presets? Can I control 2 PTZ controls on 2 video inputs? That is a good question. And given that I can't get the Extreme to even talk to one of my PTZ cameras, no, I can't show you. Frank said some updates can't be added to the Pro because of the processor. If I was YoloLove, I would release a V2 of the Pro with a better processor. That's a really good point, because processors increase, but not everybody needs more inputs. You know, like I said at the very beginning, an upgraded version of the Mini could even be a very acceptable product, because as Magewell has proven, the small form factor size is still a very viable product, is still a wanted product. People don't need an 11-inch very heavy tablet. Many people don't want a very heavy 11-inch tablet. They just want an on-camera monitor that they could put in their camera that they're filming from the sideline with, and stream it with other content like pre-show countdown, titles, graphics, overlays, scoreboard, all of that other content created in the YOLO before it gets streamed out. And then also having the bonding and everything else as well in that little 1-input tablet, or in the Pro 3-input tablet. So yeah, I definitely think there is definitely a use case for the upgrading the previous models to better processors to better handle today's needs, but also make it easier for the engineers to cross code across all of them. What is the best NDI app for a phone? I want to use NDI on the Ultra via my Android phone. There's several NDI apps for phone. I have NewTek makes one. I think is probably the best place to start. And actually, let me just go to my overhead. You can see right here, you've got NDI HX camera, very easy. So that comes from Vizert, which is, NewTek. They create that. PTZ Control is an app from BirdDog, because you can tell it's green. That is one that controls other PTZ cameras, like the PTZ Optics. NDI Camera Pro. These two are from the same company. So there's several. There's not that many. As you can see, when I type in NDI camera, it comes up with 2 apps from one maker, NDI HX camera and Stream Studio NDI camera. So there's 3 apps. There's really not much to choose from, and I think you could probably demo them a little bit. I would stick with the Vizert one because I've used their previous one, but the previous one has been orphaned because they no longer support it. I need to depend on my equipment working, but without quirky issues like HDMI working one time but not the next. Moved on to the Director 1 and Talent and have been very happy. Yes, I've posted in my streaming media columns that bulletproofness is really an important feature that a lot of these tablets really need to strive towards. And I think Magewell has... You can see the way that Magewell has done this in that they've released a tablet. There have been a couple good new features, but no like revolutionary things like adding remote guests. Has not been added to the Director. And things like that. It does what it does, and it's limited in what it does. That they're not going to put 4 video sources on the screen. They limit you to 3. And I think they do that. They're doing less. They're deliberately doing less so that it always does that less bit reliably. And then when they came out with the Director 1 with the big antennas, kind of like the YOLO has the big antennas on the outside, they came out with the Director 1. They didn't update the operating system. The Director 1 doesn't do anything dramatically different. It's all like hardware advancements. People wanted a brighter screen, which the YoloBox Extreme also delivers. People wanted a brighter screen, they wanted a bigger screen, they wanted dedicated HDMI out, and they wanted internal cellular. And the Director 1 does those 4 things with slight tweaks to the operating system, but it doesn't do anything. It isn't like, oh, and now it does all these other great. No, it's like reliability, bulletproofness is is like way high on their feature list. It's a feature that you can't even really advertise. It does what it says it's going to do. We all assume that until things like computers or whatever don't, and a PC has a blue screen of death, because of a Windows update, and you're like, bulletproofness is something that we really need. Do you know when the Osbot Tail 2 is going to be released to the public? I see B&H says coming soon. I believe it. People have been getting them, so it shouldn't say coming soon. Let me come back over here. What are you doing? Cursor's up here. That's weird. You're right. It does say. They do say new item coming soon. I guess they have not received stock yet. At $1,200, they have not received stock yet. But I have seen other people in the OBSBot groups talking about their Tail 2s and things like that. So they are shipping. It's just that I don't think B&H has received, because B&H is going to receive a massive order because they serve so many people. So I think their order has just not arrived. And then, of course, it's probably complicated with the tariff situation in the United States at this point, too. So that's all in the mix, because it has to come from China into the U.S. in order for B&H to have it, to be able to ship. And even though they ship to other countries, it still has to come into the U.S. and the price has to go up. Like, as you can see, that's now $1,200 as opposed to $999, which it was when they first started talking about it. The more I learn about NDI, it is so similar to what Switcher uses. I wonder if the codec they use has similar beginnings to NewTek, or am I like Neo and I see the Matrix? I'm pretty sure that the what Switcher uses is not NDI. I'm very confident in that, because Switcher has been doing what Switcher's doing since 2016, and NDI came out in 15, and I think the Switcher people developed their own codec. They could modify their codec to do different things over the course of time, but I don't think they jump, because it would have been very easy for them to just say it's NDI and, not even worry about phones and having to support that end of it and just do the iPad app. But they do both the phone and the iPad because it's all one ecosystem and it's not NDI. Whereas if you wanted NDI, you could go to Top Director, which is an NDI switching app. The Nearstream camera looks fantastic. It does. I did a video on the Nearstream cameras if you want to check that out. Oops, I just closed the tab by trying to switch to it. Good job. And come on. Let's go to PC. So if you go to the StreamTek channel and you go to videos, actually you could just come over here. There's a search function. Now that I've got over 100 videos on here, the best thing would be to NEAR. PTZ Optic Hive. I did a video on the Nearstream cameras, and it's probably in my live videos. And we did a live head-to-head comparison of the various models, because they have a 4K model and they have a 2K model, and they both offer amazing zooms. They say they have a directional mic on top because they have a bunch of capsules arranged in a row, so they can use time diffraction to focus the audio to coming from the front, as opposed to just putting a microphone on the front of the camera. But I don't find that to be very high quality, whereas I think they have a microphone port on the back. But this is the one I'm using today is the, let's go here. The one I'm using today is the 4K streaming camera coming into the YoloBox as 4K. Done. Pro, come back out of here. So if I go on the monitor mode, and there it is right there, and I can expand that. So that is 4K. Now if I come over here on the multi-view, that's the same. And that is the Nearstream camera up there. I also have a couple wired 4K cameras. See if they're still on. Now the thing to remember about the Ultra is that not all 8 inputs are 4K. You can see right here, it says full HD, full HD, full HD. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 inputs that are 4K. So if you want to connect things, you're going to connect your output first and then just start connecting from here. Or if you don't want to use up the 4K chip, you can use 2 inputs at 4K and then jump down here to full HD, and you'll be using different parts of the the system. But as I have two 4K cameras, I'm going to connect them over here. So now you can see, let's slide this over a little bit. I got my two HDMI outs, I got my two HDMI ins, and if I come over here, there's HDMI 7. Is that this? No, is that this one? HDMI 7? No, that is not. Oh yeah, that is the HD. This is the 4K output of the PTZ optics. And this is kind of interesting in that you can see the HDMI is super smooth in the preview. Wait, let me give you that. You can see the HDMI is super smooth in the preview, whereas the NDI is only super smooth when it's in program. So I can switch between those two. Actually, you know, it would be good. Let's do a side-by-side between this and this. And, oh, no, it's not what I wanted to do. Done. Bring that up. And then let me change my outputs so that HDMI out is mirror out. And the NDI out is HDMI 1 in, HDMI out. Mirror out and program out. There we go. Close that. So now I should have program out. You can see there's a slight delay between the HDMI and the NDI. The NDI is this one closest to me right here, and the HDMI is the further one to the right. And they're available as both, you know, because the PTZ optics has the physical outputs that the Restream does not. I'm able to take both the NDI feed and the HDMI feed, and you can see that HX3 is still a little bit behind real time. So I think what Frank has mentioned actually is the ability to delay video might be coming to might. I don't promise it. I'm not an engineer. I'm not on the team. I just go by what he says. But people have said that when you have an NDI camera in an HDMI feed, the delay is obvious. And usually what I say is, well, then use that delayed camera, the NDI feed, as your back of house wide. You know, use it in the back of your thing so it's a super wide and you can't tell sync so much, or have it in the front but looking at the audience so that it's a reaction shot, it's an over the shoulder shot and things like that, but don't put an NDI and an HDMI right next to each other looking as a close-up, so that when you cut between them there's a little bit of echo, a little bit of repeated delay. Speaking to the not available, they sold out of the first batch, but they are released. Yes, they're released, but you know, things are what they are. They come in shipments. Shipments are being delayed. Tariffs are being put on things from China in the United States, and it's a mess right now. It is a mess. It could be solved with a tweet, but that's not going to happen. I'm looking for a suitable PTZ for ice hockey streaming. No doubt YOLO would be good. I hope it's got decent zoom too. There's lots of PTZs out there already. I mean, you know, as mentioned, the Tail 2 I find to be a beautiful camera. You know, in the head-to-head that I did, I found the Tail 2 to look fantastic. Where is it? And I think that the opportunity right now at the $1,000 range is very good. You know, $1,000 to $1,200 given tariffs. You know, you've got Bird Dog has their new, you know, X series cameras at that price with a good 12x zoom at that range, $999 to $1,200 depending upon tariffs. I don't know, there's a tariff coming from Australia, unless the Bird Dog is actually made in China and then shipped from China. I don't know. I don't work on the Bird Dog product management team either. The PTZ Optics has a $995, you know, $1,000 option. The tail 2 is supposed to be about $1,000. Once you get to $1,000, there's several really good options. So if you can't find one, what I would say is work with a reseller. Work with a good value-added reseller who can enable you to, like, okay, you like this camera? Try it. It'll work for you. Okay, this doesn't work for you. What, oh, okay, the tail 2 doesn't have enough optical zoom. Okay, here, try the PTZ optics. And can work with you to make sure that you get what you're looking to get. Maybe NDI could be connected in streaming mode, but not in monitor mode, where it's designed for no network connections. Yes, NDI is definitely, well, you know what? I'm in monitor mode. I mean, if you look at this, I'm in monitor mode. So do you want to exit monitor mode? And it's able to see my cameras, my NDI cameras. Here's the NDI camera. That's the Nearstream. Hello, Nearstream. And that's coming across via NDI because there is no physical output on the Nearstream. So that is NDI, and this is in monitor mode. So there you go. Eric Jan van den Bogaard is here from the Netherlands. Thank you for chiming in. You can duplicate a previous show is how you do it. Exactly, that's what I was saying. It works on the Ultra as that is all I have. Straight was right. It does not save. It removes the overlays. We need to be able to save profiles. So that is something to report to Frank and the YOLO team to tell them when you duplicate a show, duplicate everything. And this also happened with the Pro when they started being able to. Again, this wasn't always the case. When the Pro started to be able to say, okay, or not even Pro. When YOLO had these shows in the cloud and you were able to duplicate them. That was like a feature that was added. Then it was like, oh, well, you duplicated stuff, but you didn't duplicate all the stuff. And I think that's still the case in certain instances. Like when I go into these shows, even on the Pro, and I say duplicate a show, it doesn't remember what my streaming destinations were. Like if I'm always streaming the StreamTek show to the same 3 destinations out of all these different things, that should be carried forward. But no, I have to go in, I have to manually select multicasting, and then I have to manually go over and select the 3 things and turn it on. I have to do that every single time I duplicate a show. And that's annoying. It should just remember that. And like I said with the in-stream doesn't remember anything. Like you exit the in-stream and Instagram and I'm done a show and I want to come back and do the StreamTek show to Instagram, I have to rebuild everything. It remembers my title because there's only one thing. It can't forget my title. But each camera input, I have to rotate all the way around and crop and change the background and picture and line it up again. So every single show is just slightly different because of that. But yes, they need to keep working on the duplicate option so that when you come up here and say, okay, take my behind the scenes show, and I say duplicate, that it carries forward everything that could possibly be carried forward, and then let us know everything that's carried forward so that we also know what's not. And then we know, it's like instant replays. And instant replay, what are the settings on the instant replay? 0.7 playback at what frame rate? And where's my stinger? And all of that stuff. It has to remember all those different things so that if you're doing sport, soccer for a kids team, and you're doing it on Friday and Saturday, but there's a basketball game in between. Well, you need to be able to swap between shows very easily. I have the Extreme, and it does not save the project or duplicates properly. Definitely something to be fixed. But they know this. They know how to do this because it works on the Ultra, it works on the Pro and the Mini and everything. So just taking what they know and applying it to the Extreme over here is definitely something that they can do. And I think it's okay if new features are not backwards compatible, but a show that's created somewhere should still be loaded. It should still carry forward. Also, here, this is one that I've seen as well. People who have the Extreme have posted that the 5 4K ports don't match, I mean, visually match the color space, the HD ports. And Frank stated that it's on the list to work on. So, again, everything is not fully perfect on the Extreme yet. People are finding little nuances, like, you know, if you fill up all 8 ports, do they color match each other? There's slightly differences because the 4K ports are going through one chip and the HD ports are going through a different chip, and the color space on the 2 different processors is a little different. So they have to go in and they have to manually tweak the color space processing on those 2 things. And I think it will get there. It's just we have to find it and let them know, because the engineers are engineers. They're not video people. So Taquan Johnson says, I can't find your Tale 2 video. Yeah, I have to hunt it down too. I couldn't find it in the quick look right there. I can't find it too. I reported it. Well, I'm the guy. So thank you. Bird Dog Max. Yeah, the Bird Dog Max, I don't have a Max. I just have the first X series. And the Ultra, where am I? Here, let's go to overhead. Let's go here. The Ultra, the real advantage is having these 8 inputs and the 2 outputs. That's not to be understated. So when you start having more inputs coming in, let's go back in the monitor mode, and oh, I didn't hook up another cable to that one. That's why. And I don't have more cameras. Oh, I do. I've got a bunch of HD inputs. So let me just add a bunch of these from this end. 1, 2, and now you will see it's detecting a signal in HDMI 1 and HDMI 2. This port requires manual input frame rate selection. So I'm going to tell it that it's 30 frames per second, not 60. When connecting fewer devices, it is recommended to use HDMI 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 because those are connected to a different chip that can do automatic frame rate. Done. Yes, I know, I just connected another one. Done. And there. So now you can see that I've added 4 more things from a video player, and I did a video on this video player. But what that lets me do is it lets me go into my HDMI out settings, and now on the, I don't know why it's back on mirror out, I want to see multi-view out. Done. And now if I come over here, you should see my multi-view. So having this on your second output where you can see program, but then you can see all of your inputs. This is really cool. And also you see where it says all the way over there, let me do me over right here, side by side. This is a multi-view I created in the YoloBox, and it's visible here. Normally in a multi-view, or this is a scene I created. Normally in a multi-view you don't see these constructed scenes. It's very cool to see them here. So if I create another one, let's just do 3 views, and I go 1, 2, 3, done, done. And I put a background behind it, done. There it is. And again, this speaks to the simplicity of the YoloBox. Did I have to add this manually to the multi-view? No, it showed up, and there it is. And if I change the name of it, let's change the name of it. Rename. 3 views. It didn't rename here, just to prove me wrong. And if I go back to this view, you'll see I named it 3 views. Yay! And if I go back to my multi-view, it still says 3 views. So yeah, I found another bug. not a deal breaker, but I love the fact that it added these multi-views automatically, so that if I wanted to come over here and add another picture-in-picture with me and this guy, done, and then put this guy, his subscreen shape in a little dot, and then put him up here in the corner, done. There he is. I just made this one, and that's how fast you can make these multi-views and have them here. That's one of the really nice things I love about the YoloBox, is making these multi-views, you know, is super quick. You know, oh, I need a multi-view. Let's do side by side with this lady talking about, no, not that, talking about me. Done. So she's talking about me, and we're going to shrink her to the side. Let's put a background on there. Done. And that's how fast you can build these things. And that is one of the things I really like about the YoloBox that you're not going to find on the Director Mini. You cannot build it that fast because the Director series and the Talent, you build everything layer by layer, and you put it in, and then you have to crop it and size it over here, and then bring in the other video and then put it over here and size it and then match it. And the guides will come up to help you and everything, and they've got a couple presets, but I don't think the presets really help. It's not like this. This I did in 15 seconds, and it looks done. You know, I can still tweak the thickness of the border, the color of the border, and all that stuff, but 15 seconds done is one of the things that YOLO really has, you know, made in spades, to be able to build that multi-view over there so that I can then go between me and then, where'd the multi-view go? This multi-view and then this multi-view. This is simplicity, ease of use, which is why having 8 inputs and being able to like make all these multi-views really does lend itself to people who are starting out but want to be able to deliver finished product. PTZ Optics asks, oh, listen to that. I got PTZ Optics. I have a PTZ Optics camera. Actually, this right here is a PTZ Optics camera. And it, where is it? It's right. Where did it go? No, not that one. There it is. There it is. There's my PTZ Optics camera. How many NDI inputs are available? It's variable. So as we were saying earlier, if we come out of this and go back into here and go to add an NDI input, it tells you you've got 2 full or 5 NDI HX. But then the question comes, if you add 1 full, how many NDI HX are left? Don't know. So it's kind of variable, and in my experience with the Ultra, I have added, and then it gets to a point where it tells you you're done. There's no more. So you could say 5 or less. So that would be a good guide, I would say. But even just 5 NDI inputs is a good set of inputs. Now, as if you scroll back, you'll actually see that I was not able to get it to connect to my PTZ Optics camera and it doesn't connect automatically for PTZ control, which is one of the weird things I really hope they do. And it was the same with the Ultra. When you pick that camera over there, the control doesn't come with it. You then have to go into your camera. Come on, go away. Here's my PTZ Optics NDI. I can take this one. I'm going to say PTZ control, and then it asks me for the IP address, which is annoying. But I know what the IP address is because I have that right here. So I'm going to type it in again. 192.168.4.55. And we say done, and then it says we're unable to connect to your PTZ device. And then I say, well, try TCP. And it says, you know what? We're unable to connect to your NDI device. So, whereas on the Director series, once you connect NDI and you say connect to this camera, it automatically connects the control as well. You don't even have to think about it. It's just there. So I hope YOLO can fix this issue and I never have to see this connect your PTZ control again, unless you're doing Visa or some other networking that doesn't automatically come, like NDI. Don Kate says, salute Anthony, yet another informative presentation. Well, thank you very much. It's actually been almost 2 hours, so it's been a very active show. Is AI tracking really useful in production there yet? I see PTZ Optics, Hive hardware is theirs. Hive can enable what's in the camera. So the question you're asking is AI tracking really useful in productions? I think it can be useful in productions depending upon, what you need to track. If you have a speaker in the front of the room in a classroom, I think AI tracking is great. If you have two speakers, I've seen demos of where it's able to track and grow and shrink and follow two people in the front of the room, I think you're good. If you're talking about soccer, I don't think so. And there's that, that example that people love to point out where somebody had AI tracking on in a soccer tournament, and then the AI tracker found the bald referee on the sideline and kept centering down on his head as if it was the ball. It's a round spherical object of about this size in the frame. I guess that's the ball. So AI tracking doesn't understand context, whereas humans do. So AI tracking is getting better. AI tracking can do certain things, but I think in terms of sports, having a physical operator on your follow camera is still going to be the best way to ensure that you don't end up having the camera go looking at something else. Mike Lee chimes in that there's 6HX NDI on the website. I'm looking at the device, and maybe the website is reflecting a later OS or a later operating system than I have, but mine says 5. So, hey, maybe if it becomes 6, that'll be great. I'll take 6. Other key things to really note with the Ultra is that, let's go back over here to my side-by-side. Yes, I know. Is that the audio mixer, again, is the same audio mixer that is in the Ultra. It is not the audio mixer that is in the Pro or the Mini or the InStream. This audio mixer is the higher end audio mixer where you can turn off headphone monitoring for whatever input has your dialogue audio, because I feed my audio into HDMI 1, which is my camera. I feed the audio into the camera, which then comes over. That's how I carry my audio through my production. But if I'm doing a live show and I don't want to hear my own echo, like I'm bringing in remote guests, which is really the most applicable thing. If you're bringing in remote guests, you want to hear the remote guests over here on the bottom, but you want to hear all the remote guests talking, but you don't want to hear, let's just say HDMI 8, you don't want to hear yourself. So you can come over there and turn this headphone volume off. So now I don't hear this, and this is my camera, so I don't hear me, but it would still be part of the program. And then of course, with remote guests, you have the ability to turn on audio follows video. So their audio is only going to be part of the program when they're on screen, because every single remote guest is going to have audio, but you don't want to have 5 different people talking. You don't want to hear 5 people when only one is on the screen at one time. Then if you go to a multi-view and there are 5 people on screen, then all their audio will follow directly. So that is a really nice advancement in terms of the audio capability of the Extreme is very similar to the Ultra. If you've worked with the Ultra, the Extreme will be a nice, a welcome sight because it's going to work the same way. If you come from the Pro, the Mini, or the InStream, and you come over to the Extreme, then this is going to be very different. And it's going to take a little bit of time for you to like figure this out and learn it. And then up here in the top, you can also see there's a delay for each of these inputs, so that if you've got something coming in, honestly, you probably wouldn't want to delay audio coming in with your video inputs. You would need to delay any analog audio that you had coming in, which there isn't any because I don't have any plugged in. But if I plugged something in, if I had a plug to plug in, let's try it. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to plug it into line input. And then it should sense, there it is. Now I've got my line input. So there's nothing coming in on the line input. I just plugged headphones in, but it sensed something was plugged in. So this is on. I can hear it in my headphones unless that's where my audio was coming from and I didn't want to hear it. I could turn that off. And then there's no audio follows video because there's no video connected with this. But then over here, the delay, you're going to want to delay this at least 2 frames. And 2 frames at 30 frames a second is about 60 milliseconds. So you can, like me, wish these numbers were a lot bigger. It's an 11-inch screen, but still these numbers on the screen are like 2 millimeters tall. So, and they're deep red on black. I hate it when that, just high contrast. Just make them high contrast. Because if you're outdoors, you're not going to be able to see this at all. Sunlight on the screen, bouncing off the glass, you're not going to see this at all. You'd be lucky if you can see this part. So you can set the delay, and that way my line input would be delayed to match the video inputs, which are all being delayed to sync up. So that's where you're really going to use the delay on your analog line or microphone inputs right there. So the audio mixer is really, and you can see stereo audio on these things. Unfortunately, if you have something coming in that's only on the left channel or only on the right channel because of a mistake or whatever, or you plug in a microphone and it's only coming in on one side, there's no pan to center still. So there's no way to take these inputs and say summit to mono, which would be great, but it's not there yet. And that's one thing that I don't think the Director Series does either, is give you the ability to sum the audio signals to mono in case you just plug in a little shotgun microphone and it's only feeding in the left channel. You don't want to stream audio with the audio only coming from one side. You want the audio to come from both. And there's not really a way to do that unless you're adding an external audio mixer where you've got a pan control for each of your inputs. So hopefully that can be added, but it's not in here just yet. And it's one of the nice features that have been added as part of the new audio mixer that is in the Ultra and the Extreme. But again, that feature is also not available in the Pro. Also over here, you've got line in and mic in settings. Now that I have that plugged in, you can add noise reduction, which I think is a great feature in terms of doing a show, let's just say a live show, and you've got the little headset mics, but you want to be able to, reduce the background audio a little bit, and you can bring down, maybe not on the line input, but on the mic input, you can bring down the background noise through noise reduction, which has actually always been available on the InStream. But through the noise reduction, you can bring down that background audio level and bring out the dialogue audio of what you're trying to have in your program. And that's in the new audio mixer. So those are some of the really cool things. And then cancel. No, don't cancel. The other thing is when you go into your recording mode. Can I make that bigger? No, I can't. Yeah, I can. Over. So over here, you can see the resolution. This is what I'm recording in, right? So, but what do I want to record? Oh, I want to record my NDI feeds. I want to record my HDMI feeds. Let's see how far I can go. Change my bit rate, recording limits, record continuously, storage settings, put them on the SD card. And so at 1080, look at all of that. That's a lot of stuff. Now, the interesting thing is, some of these are coming in via 4K, but my recording is only 1080p. Now, if I bring this up to 2K or 4K, let's try to see where my limit would be. It's not telling me any limit, which I don't think is the case. 36 megabytes a second. Oh yeah? Do it. Aha, there it is. The bitrate limit alert. An encoder bitrate limit of 120 megabits per second has been reached. So the encoder bitrate limit. So let's see, if I'm doing 4K at 60, it's telling me that I'm using 36, so 120. So if I bring that down, I wonder, got it. I wonder, let's go back into my recording settings and change the bit rate down to something far too small, 24 megabits. What if I bring the frame rate down? (16 megabits. That's as low as I can go. All right. And then I say record. Nope, I'm still pushing it too hard. So it's, even by bringing my frame rate down and my bit rate down to 16, I've got too many things being recorded, and that puts me over the bit rate limit. So got it. You can then start turning off which 4K record. I want the program at 4K. Maybe not the NDIs coming in. The HDMI, is it 1, 2, 3, 4? Yeah, let's do those. Okay, so now I've got those. I can bring this back up to 20, I guess. And now I come over here, hit record. And now we've got another encoding error. CPU usage is 51%. Enabling this feature is estimated to increase CPU usage by 48, reaching 99%. You've exceeded the 99, so 720p is estimated 4%, 1080p is 8%, 4K encoding is 16%. So you can see it's letting you know ahead of time that you're going to hit the ceiling. And these, you know, I remember the beta team working through these things. It's like, we need better error reporting. We need to know where the limits are. You got to give us messages so that we don't try and do things and then the recording is just all stuttery because we were over 100% and it just can't do that many frames. So this is the key thing. And again, these are estimates. You know, it's estimated CPU usage is 16%. If you have somebody standing there just like this talking very much, it's really not going to be as much as the estimate is. But then again, we never really know what somebody's going to record. So again, these estimates, you know, are kind of in the middle. You know, it's not going to reflect somebody standing there and talking, but it's also not going to accurately reflect somebody doing a hydro boat racing out where there's all this water reflecting sunlight and it's just, the entire frame is just glittery noise. Well, that CPU usage is going to be over 16%. Whereas me standing here talking is going to be under 16%. So you kind of have to like draw the line somewhere. And that's what they did here, is they built this error. Basically, it's an alert. It's not an error. It's an alert to let you know that you're going to be asking too much of the system by asking it to do all this. And then it gives you this information that you can use to start and add things up. So if I went over here and I said I want to record 1080p, I can do these three. And you can see now it's at 8 megabits per second, which is still pretty handy for HD. And I say record. It's still saying I'm going to go up to 81%. And now I've got to continue. I'm letting you know but you can still continue because I'm going to push this up to 81%. So continue. Start. I don't think my card's going to be able to handle it because I have a very basic card in here. But here I am recording. And then again, over here, you can see there's my active CPU. Now it said me doing this is going to go up to 80%, but it hasn't. It's sticking right around 68, 69, basically 70%. And the reason is what I'm recording is fairly simple. The majority of my frame is not changing. Like I said, the actual CPU usage will depend upon what you've got going on. If you've got kids doing soccer outside with trees in the background blowing and grass and lots of people moving, your CPU usage is going to be higher than me standing here in a studio against a blue screen. Is a very simple thing. Oh, I moved, went up to 71%. And then you can always pull down from the top and it will tell you, battery level, temperature. This thing's getting pretty warm at 81 degrees. My memory usage is 60 CPU. So knowing these details, and I've got the screen brightness all the way down so that it doesn't blow out the camera that's filming it. I would be using more battery. I'm plugged in, but you would use more battery if you're outside and you crank this thing up, and that's also going to create more heat. And more heat uses more power. So you run into like a trifecta. I need more screen, which creates more battery usage, which creates more heat. When you're running hotter, it uses more battery. It's a self-fueling cycle. And then over here, if I was live, it would give you other things over here as well. But you can see it's actually still recording. Been recording for 2 minutes and I haven't got an error. It hasn't crashed or anything. Mostly because I think I haven't hit that 80%, let alone 90% or 100%. So still 20 under maxing out the CPU. Recording all 4 of these at 1080p. Oh, there, you saw it go up to 89. It jumped up there. And again, that's a processor. It could be doing other things at the same time. If I had remote callers, that would be something challenging as well. And let me stop that. Do you want to stop the recording? Yes, done. That actually begs the question, if I call up the YoloDeck, where's the done? It's in gear. YoloDeck configuration. Let's put this over here. One of the things, configure. Do I have it plugged in? I don't. Where is it? Here it is. There it is. So I've got the YoloDeck over here. And one of the things that they give you by default is this. It still thinks it's recording. Oh, hello. Yeah, that's still working, but I lost my YoloBox. Can I switch inputs? I don't know. Let's look at my output. Oh, it's overlays. Interesting. You can see the red box. You can see the red box telling me that I'm switching my inputs, but my program is not changing. It's interesting. Because I think I've entered this quasi zone. There it goes. There it goes. It finally updated. What I wanted to do is I've got a record button here, and I wanted to see. I said yes. Okay, there I am. Let's go side by side. So I'm in here. I'm going to hit record. It gives me that. Cancel. I'm not recording because I've stopped at the top of the screen here. Wait. Right here, I've stopped recording, but my CPU usage is still at that high rate. And I can't stop, so I think it thinks it's still recording. Recording was saved successfully. Boy, that took a little while. It should drop at this point. Nope, it's not letting me. Let's exit. It's thinking, it's thinking. This is the part you don't see in edited shows. And because this is live, you get to see it. And this is not AI generated either. This is the machine. It's the tablet has not crashed because I'm able to still pull down from the top. And the CPU usage has gone way down to 24%. And the memory has gone down. So basically, the app has crashed or frozen, which of course means the CPU is not doing anything. Yeah, I know. Close the app. There we go. Now how are we doing? We were at 14, now we're at 28. Okay, let's go back into monitor mode. I would probably do to reboot the system at this point. Yeah, we're going to reboot. Because I think the app has crashed and then there's legacy stuff going on. So yes, like I said, this is the part you don't normally see in a edited video, because edited videos are showing you all the best stuff. Is the Xtreme the best tablet on the planet? I don't know. When it boots back up, we'll find out. I'm holding down the power button now, hoping that in 10 seconds I should get some. There we go. I did a hard reboot by holding the power down for 10 seconds. So, wow. And it forgot my brightness setting. There it goes. All right. I pull them down from the top. Yep, there's my brightness setting. CPU is at 11%. There we go. 3%. Now it's not doing anything. And my memory usage is back down to 16%. Let's go back into my monitor mode. Boop, 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 boop. Find all those inputs. Yes, those are still 30 frames per second. There we go. And it remembered all my side-by-sides. I didn't create any graphics, so there's no graphics over here. But what I was going to try was, what was I going to try? So now my CPU is at 54% because I'm in show. And I forget what I was going to show before it stopped working. Oh, recording, that's right. So let's just say I'm recording program. All right? Let's just say I'm recording program. And I hit the record button. Now, I'm recording. That light went red. It would be really cool if that was a record light too. And then I hit stop. Nope, it's still red. My recording stopped. Recording was saved successfully. What if you hit this button accidentally? You know, I would never put the record button over here. Don't ever put the record button on your, like, it's nice to have it red, but if, you know, if I have go live and fade to black, and then come back out of fade to black, go, come out of, and I accidentally hit both buttons and I stopped recording the show, that would be bad. So when you record here, start, you see I didn't get the start alert when I hit the button down here. And when I stop here, are you sure? No, I hit that accidentally. Keep recording. When you hit it over here, it's gone. There's no alert that says, are you sure? Did you want to stop recording? Same with go live. Are you sure? Did you want to stop streaming? or was that button press accidental? The best way to solve that is don't make it a button press. Keep it on the screen. So that this way you can switch your show and you can have multiple pages of stuff over here. So you've got like 2 page indicators. You can page to the right, page to the left and everything. You could do all your stuff over here, but the mission critical stuff of starting your stream, starting your records and stopping them happens with an alert in a different place. That's something I really recommend. And I've recommended that the whole time, not to put that on a button. And they still keep making it a default. And then I also says, if you're going to make it a button, the alert should still come up on the screen, but it doesn't. So that is something to be very wary about in terms of what you're doing when you use the YOLO deck with your Extreme or Ultra. It works the same on the Ultra. And I like the YOLO deck. I think the YOLO deck is a really good product. I think it's a great solution for people who just want to like, this can do a whole lot, but I don't want to give people this control. Like, you know, if you have a church or a corporate office or something like that, and you have people coming in that want to do a show, you know, in that you do have to tell them to stream. Maybe you put it on a different page over here. And this way, they still have to touch the screen to start the stream. But in terms of switching the show, camera 1, camera 2, camera 3, you know, they can switch the show all day long. They can bring up overlays, which I don't have any in here. They can switch the show, do the overlays, do all the whole thing, and then stop over here. You know, it would be nice because this way they're not going to be like, well, what else does this do? Can I change the titles? Oh, let me change the audio. I think it's not loud enough. You know, and then next thing you know, it's distorting on the stream. You know, let me add some of my own favorite tunes and stuff here. Oh, a scoreboard. And they start playing with the scoreboard and leave it on there, not realizing that it's still on the screen. You know, crazier things have happened. A replay. Should we turn on replay too? No, don't turn on replay. And that's just some of what you can do by having this available. You know, you can set this up ahead of time so that, you know, you got your cameras, you got your overlays, and you've got, you know, different settings for anything someone might need who's not really well versed in doing the whole build. They can run a show and then just tell them, you just got to hit here for record. I mean, I'm not in a live streaming show. Done. Let me exit this so I can go into a streaming show. So that way I'm over here and I've got my streaming destination done. And there's my go live button at the top. Kind of confusing because these other buttons, but now it's more evident. So you can tell them, this is where you record, this is where you stream, don't touch anything else. Okay? And then you can still run the show over here. I'm not going to hit the go live button here because if you did go live, it's spinning. There it is. And you hit that. Now you're not live. No alert came up. I hit the record button. I'm recording. It goes red over here. That's a nice feature. You accidentally hit it again. No alert comes up to tell you you're not recording. It goes green over here. There's an indicator here, but I would rather have it come up with an alert and keep recording. Not for me to figure out, oh wait, why is this green an hour later in the show? So that is something I feel should be different. But again, I'm not an engineer. I don't work for the YOLO team. I'm not able to tell them what to do. But as a video producer, that's something I feel they should implement in terms of making this thing a little bit more bulletproof for producers. And at the level the YOLO products are at, many times they're used by volunteers who are not experts in what they're doing. You know, you tell them enough to get them going, you know, a small church and things like that, but they could easily tap the wrong thing and then they're like, you know, they're sitting here and they accidentally do that and they're like, where'd the audio mixer go? I don't know what happened to the audio mixer. I could see the thing move before, but now something happened, and this is why touch screens are not really great for production, because you could accidentally brush against something, and next thing you know, you're over here, and you're like, well, wait, what did I do? I don't know what I did. How did I get here? Because nobody is fully aware of everything going on with their whole body the whole time. Accidentally, like their other hand could have brushed against it while they're over here. So making it so it's more bulletproof by using a control surface like this is a really great idea. I think it needs to be augmented by making these controls still bring up error messages and not automatically cut your stream and not automatically cut the record. Matt says, I like live more than edited. Well, it's a little bit more of an energy, like, oh no, it crashed live on the show. What do I do? But yeah, things crash. Reminds me what I deal with when streaming with my Ultra. Yes, stuff happens. It really. This is the real deal. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. I'm not trying to sugarcoat anything. I'm trying to bring it to you as it happens, and I was deliberately trying to make it crash. Not trying to make it crash, but trying to figure out where the limits are so I could show you that there are limits to the processor. I just didn't know that was going to make it crash. Do you know an iPad app that can take the USB-C out of the YoloBox and turn the iPad into a touchscreen for the YoloBox? Nope. Nope. No. Why would the iPad be a touchscreen for the YoloBox? And you wouldn't use an iPad app. I think you can do that via a USB-C monitor. But I mean, you've got an 11-inch monitor here. So, while you can take the USB-C, as far as I know, and bring it into a touchscreen USB monitor and have the control surface, have that interface in front of you, while you can do that, with the Extreme, you've already got an 11-inch screen. Do you want to make it a 15-inch screen? It's not much bigger, really, and it's the same interface. Admittedly, it would make that really teeny text with the audio a little bit bigger, but not an iPad app, no. And I know people that have used external touchscreen monitors with the Pro and the Ultra, because the Ultra has, an 8-inch screen. So if you wanted a 15-inch screen, 8 to 15, well, that's a big difference. 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 is already much bigger than the 8. So I think the 11 is a pretty nice sized monitor as it is. But as to looking for an iPad app to do it, no, but you can find, as opposed to a $300, $500, or $2,000 iPad, you could dedicate a $150 LCD screen with USB to do it and not have to pay for an app. I tried it with a Magewell Talent 15-inch touchscreen monitor and it worked. Yes, the Talent also has that capability. The original, the Talent and the original Director 1 have USB, which is also DisplayPort. So it's video and USB. The the Director 1, the monitor video does not come out the USB-C anymore. It comes out as separate HDMI, but then you just run 2 cables to your screen. So no on the Ultra, no, I'm on the Ultra, not an Extreme. I have a external monitor, but it's not very good. Yes, and this is a very good point. Thank you very much for chiming in on this. The touchscreen needs to be 1920 by 1200. A lot of external monitors are 1920 by 1080 because that's a very common display resolution for HD video, full HD, 1920 by 1080. But this is a tablet And if you want the tablet to properly display what the tablet is displaying, you need to be at the same resolution of the tablet, which is 1920 by 1200. I actually don't have a touchscreen tablet. It's something I have not, a touchscreen monitor. That's something I have not invested in, just because in the way I use these devices, I either have a control surface or I can touch the face of the device. So I haven't needed a bigger monitor that gives me what the monitor already gives me. And WN Media Atlanta says, I'm late, but I'm here now. Well, thank you very much for chiming in, and I apologize, but I've been going for 2 hours and 15 minutes. So I believe I am going to thank everyone for being here today, and also let you know that if you're looking for anything with regards to StreamTek, it's over here on the StreamTek channel on YouTube. You can find all the past shows, all the live shows. You can also find, I'm clicking on the wrong thing. You can also find studio tours. You can find NAB 2024. I did not go in 2025. I was in Japan. Producer conversations, talking with other producers and what they do. And then the live shows, as of course, technology explanations and gear demos. So if you want to find out about a piece of gear, it'll be in the gear demos. If you want to find out, can you explain NDI to me? That's going to be in the technology explanations. And also, if you can find me on streamingmedia.com, I'm a regular contributor, reviewer, and I have a column called Producer Notes, and you can find different things over there. You can see my BirdDog X1 20X PTZ review right over there, and the Blackmagic Design Micro Studio camera video right there. So you can find a lot of my reviews there. If you need to reach out to me, if you have ideas for shows, producers to interview, if you need consulting for product selection, you can reach out to me at streamtek.tv. streamtek.us. I should put that in the graphic. That would make it more sense. streamtek.us will take you to this website, which is actually on WordPress. But I purchased the domain. And then over here, you can see StreamTek is available on a page. I also do B4 lenses on Micro Four Thirds. You can see there, I have the AirMix group. And if you're in the Frisco, Texas area, the Dallas, Texas area, I run Frisco Studios, which is actually where this show is produced. And if you're looking for live streaming anywhere in the world, I can come and do that for you. I run Stream for Us. So thank you all for being here. I appreciate you being part of this live show. I love the live shows, the interactivity where people can comment and let me know their thoughts, like if they thought it was a great show or not. I like the fact that you can comment and be part of the show. And I enjoy having an audience where we can create the show together, because it's not very many places where one person can just stream out to the world and find other like-minded technical professionals. The question came in. For a complete wireless one-man show, do you recommend three tail twos with the Extreme? No. If you're running 3 OBSBot cameras, I would actually recommend the OBSBot Talent, because I feel, personal opinion, I'm not an engineer for OBSBot, I feel OBSBot is going to be incorporating more of their own proprietary stuff in between their cameras and their software on the Talent than pairing the OBSBot cameras with a YOLO device. And also NDI from the Tail 2s is going to pair natively with the NDI capability in the Talent, whereas with the YOLO devices, you still have to find the IP address, which might change every time, and put that in manually and skip all that and just go with the OBSBot Talent for that. Thank you. Well, it's great to be part of a collaborative show where viewers can chime in and put things out there, and I can bring them into the show, and you become part of the show. That's one of the really nice things about doing a live show. Well, I thank you very much, and I think with that, I'm going to say adieu. You can hear my voice getting a little rattly after almost 2.5 hours, but I appreciate you. I will be back next week, and I look forward to seeing all of you next time. Take care.